Good morning and welcome back. You're watching World Talks here on TVP World. I'm Salia Strzemska. A tougher stance on migration. It certainly seems so. Ursula von der Leyen, President of the European Commission, said in a press conference that in the most recent meeting, leaders discussed setting up deportation centers outside the EU's borders, referring to them as, quote, return hubs. To discuss what other solutions are being considered and the actual implementation of these plans, I am joined here this morning by Karolina Borońska-Hryniewiecka, Associate Research Fellow, Paris Panthéon-Sorbonne University.
Good morning.
Good morning. Delighted to have you with us. Thank you for joining us. Let me start with a general question, because we have these new regulations being put in place. However, it seems that the amount of migrants actually reaching Europe is decreasing. So in 2023, fewer than 300,000 people made it to the continent. This year, the EU's border agency Frontex said that 160,000 migrants have reached Europe. So why, in contrast, in 2015, right, when we had this major crisis, more than 1 million arrived in Europe. So my question is, why now, and why is it so important? Perhaps is it a sign of these populist parties, anti-immigration parties, having more influence?
Well, yes and no, I have to say, because if we look at this data that you have quoted, they are perfect, but they refer to the very general EU overall crossings. But if you look at the eastern EU border, the border that is actually Polish border, also Finnish border, etc., these crossings on that eastern side of the European Union have increased as compared with previous years over 150%. So on one hand, generally, less people come to illegal migrants cross EU borders, but we, the eastern flank states, border states, have felt, and it's actually real and tangible, very increased pressure. And we know that this pressure comes mostly from the side of Russia and Belarus, because they use migrants, they use poor, disadvantaged people fleeing their states for very different reasons as a weapon. Therefore, I don't think that the fact that leaders, European leaders, decided to harden, to make some solutions more effective, solutions to protect external borders, it's not really only a populist whim. It's basically a tangible problem that has to be fixed. So in this sense, I think it is good that the European Council has used this opportunity to discuss more effective potential solutions. Now the question is, what language are leaders using, and to what extent the proposed solutions are in line with the EU law and with international humanitarian conditions and law.
Right, so let's take a look at what has been established in Brussels. What, to you, are some of the key takeaways? Will we see more countries following the path of Italy, which, of course, has this cooperation with Albania? If we could shed more light on this.
Of course. Well, I think that what we should be really interested in is to look at the Council conclusions. The European Council, so head of states, concluded on Thursday and Friday that, first of all, the European Union needs more resolved response. What is very important for us as Poland is that our country has been named and mentioned in the conclusions. And what we read is that the European Council expressed solidarity with Poland and other states who are put under this pressure from the hybrid warfare from Russia. However, when we read in some media that yes, all countries have accepted the fact that we want to that Polish Prime Minister has this idea of suspending asylum rights. No, nothing about suspending asylum rights have been written in the conclusions. What we read in the conclusions is that extreme situations need innovative or we would say different responses. But there is nothing about breaking European law. On the other hand, on the contrary, actually, the Council conclusions state that all responses, all possible means, even the most innovative, have to stay in line with the European law. This is what we can read. And one more important thing that I would like to underline. In the conclusions, we also read that the European Council stresses the importance of implementing adopted legislation. What does that mean? Under these 3 lines, we actually the Council refers to the Asylum and Migration Pact. So it is all very nuanced, and sometimes you could think twisted, because on one hand, the Polish leader, Donald Tusk, is saying that he's going to defend Polish interests by not applying European law, which might somehow undermine these interests. On the other hand, he's signing a political declaration saying that member states have to put more effort into implementing the Migration Pact. The Migration Pact, which is a demonized for no reason document, is something that has been adopted at the legislative level in May, and now European Union member states have 2 years to implement these legal acts. It's 7 or 8 legal acts referring to very different issues. External border protection, it's one of the pillars of the Migration Pact, so it's already there. And whatever Poland is saying now, and they are very good proposals, this is, I would say, complementary measures to the Migration Pact, which is good. So overall, just to sum up, I would say that what we have witnessed over the last 2 days in Brussels, it's a win-win situation. Win-win because for Poland and for the internal discourse narrative message is like, our prime minister is effective. He's assertive. He asked for understanding that we want to, step up our protective measures. It was accepted, but really no revolution has happened. The European Commission and von der Leyen, they also understand this is the necessity of the times now to talk about preventive measures, because we are at war. This is not a regular migration situation. There was an earthquake and people are coming and we need to help them. These people are used as weapons, and this is terrible because we are in between humanitarian positions and thinking and very idealistic approach to helping the other human being. On the other hand, we know that these people are instrumentalized. Right. That's why it's good that leaders talk about it.
Right, of course, and you've mentioned the Migration Pact as a fairly controversial piece of legislation, and I actually wanted to ask you which provisions specifically are so controversial, because, of course, this influences EU's steps as of now, right? So,
what is the most controversial? We've heard about it over months. This is the solidarity clause, which is basically it's a provision stating that only in solidary way we can face and prevent these transnational global challenges as migration. So in this solidary ideas, there is either relocation, so accepting some number of refugees on our own territory, around up to 30,000 people, which is not a lot, or financial compensations, or providing logistical material or help, like, for example, EU border guards that can be deployed from certain member states to help at external borders. So there are many ways to contribute to this, solidarity and kind of common response. But this has been demonized by populist and right-wing politicians, that something has been imposed on us and now we are going to be flooded with migrants. First of all, we have to be very careful in voicing anti-migrant statements as a country that has not really accepted any refugee quota. We are talking about Ukrainians, and millions of them have arrived on our ground, on our soil, which is a different story than refugees from the Middle East, and we know that. So we have to be very careful, especially as politicians, because the message that we are sending, the message is creating fear. Sometimes it's ungrounded fear, and the way that society is approaching migration is also changing. We know that migration can be a challenge, can be a danger, but it is also a very important, I would say, opportunity also in facing our economic challenges. So it's a very complex topic, and it's good that we talk about it.
Right, and I just wanted to also ask you a little bit more about this implementation of some of these policies and ideas and so on. It of course stipulates cooperation with North African countries, and I remember this case when Ursula von der Leyen, together with Giorgia Meloni, went to Tunisia to actually try and prevent migration from North Africa and supporting the country with additional funding, but it did not bear fruit. So my question is, how reliable are these partners, and do you think that this will work out?
Well, let me just stress this: managing migration is really, really a difficult topic, because it refers not to a certain virtual policy, but to people. They have to be physically relocated. They have to be physically taken care of. They have to be physically, pushed back. So this is really, really difficult. On the other hand, there are interests. So these particular measures who have to be sped up now, and this is the implementation phase, is, for example, speeding up of returns. In other words, people who are illegal, who have crossed the European Union border, but are denied asylum for different reasons, because they don't qualify for it, they have to be returned somewhere. The globe is huge, but basically the logical thinking is it's either to their own country of origin, which sometimes are insecure, not safe, and they cannot actually live there nicely and happily and in peace. But there are also other countries, like transit countries or other countries, third countries, that agree to become some sort of return hubs. And this is the story between Italy and Albania, which have signed some sort of agreement about Albania becoming this sort of return hub. Of course, it's not for free. Of course, it has to be done in some sort of political financial exchange deal. So Albania gets support to organize this some sort of a hub. For many leaders, maybe not many, but for some leaders, for some politicians, this is doubtful from the humanitarian point of view. It is difficult. I've never been to a hub like that. I don't know how it looks, but I can imagine that it is not a nice place. So we understand that leaders have had strategic discussions. And what is very, very important, they have agreed, all of them, 27 have agreed that European Union needs to sharpen, step up this some sort of preventive security-oriented measures. And in this sense, migration pact will be somehow, I would say, that the implementation will be somehow redirected in this direction, but it will not be changed. So the business is as usual, but at the same time with some innovative progress that I think is very important now.
Right, so certainly things have been put in motion, and we'll see what the results will be. Karolina Borońska-Hryniewiecka, thank you so much for being this morning and with your insight on the topic. Thank you. And with this, we conclude World Talks. Thank you for watching, and please stay tuned for more here on TVP World.